Alex, what are we making today?
We're doing a bone-in sirloin shish kebab slash shashlik slash kebab on a stick.
Today we're going to make a simple beef kebab. In Russia, it's very common. It's called Shashlik. It just takes a couple of spices. You don't have to use expensive meat to make it because we're going to teach you how to tenderize it. It's a very popular street food in Russia. It also happens to go really well with the Russian national beverage. You could have a cold half-liter of vodka prepared
Per person.
when you break into this beautiful kebab. And here is my wife, who's not amused at all.
But that does help tenderize the meat.
There's no kebab without a little scolding. Why is today a perfect day for making shashlik?
We wanted to do a tribute to the elders in the family. You know, when our fathers had just come to this country, they were very poor, and they didn't own any grills. They couldn't even afford charcoal, really. Just they would go to the local park just outside of the apartment complex where we lived. They would start a fire in the communal grill, and lo and behold, they would start putting meat on skewers and rotating those skewers. And we would look around and we would see all the other families there, and what were they cooking?
Burgers and dogs.
Burgers and dogs. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted those burgers and dogs. I wanted the bread and I wanted to be an American, but it took a lot of time and growing up to start to really appreciate the culture that they had brought back with them. And so today we're doing a little bit of a tribute to that.
Masha, why is today the perfect day for shashlik?
Because you're gonna do all the work and I get to eat it.
Here on the beach with family, we got nothing to do, we're bored.
I got my grilling shirt on.
He's got his grilling shirt on, and hopefully it'll stay on. We're gonna grill. We're gonna start by cutting and slicing an onion. I like to cut it thin because it provides more surface area when it gets in contact with the meat. This is a really key part of the ingredient because it's what makes the meat tender. Here we have a large piece of sirloin steak with the bone in, and we're gonna cut this into kebab-sized pieces.
It's important to have a very sharp knife because when you cut yourself, it's easier to suture your hand back up.
Now, I like to keep the fat on. It provides a lot of flavor. In the meantime, while I'm cutting this, Alex is gonna mix up the spices.
We're gonna go with some freshly ground pepper. We're gonna put the seasoning mix into a single bowl. You just get the bowl dirty once and you don't have to worry about getting each individual container contaminated with your meat-covered hands. A little bit of sea salt. This is finely ground sea salt. Actually, it's not too bad. It's kind of coarse. We try to go with the more coarse stuff usually, but
Why do you go with the more coarse stuff?
it's usually higher quality. With the coarser stuff, it sucks the moisture off the surface, but it creates a crust even before you start cooking. It retains its internal moisture more. This stuff, it absorbs really quickly and it just kind of vanishes. We're gonna put a little bit of paprika in there, and it's important to use a pink bowl. Turmeric makes things yellow.
Wouldn't you want to use saffron?
Yeah, but unfortunately we don't have any. Then we're just gonna mix it all up. And you're just kind of massaging it around, you know, really getting your hands in there.
If you're not ready to get your hands dirty, you shouldn't be grilling. The key part of this is to really squeeze the onions into the meat because that's what's going to tenderize this meat. One of the great things about this recipe is that you can use a tougher kind of meat, and because you're cutting it into small pieces and tenderizing it with the onions, you can actually use a cheaper cut and still get a pretty tender result once you cook it.
We got the spices in, we got the onions in, we've squeezed everything so that the onion juice has come out and it's started to leach into the meat. The final step is to put in a little bit of vinegar. This is apple cider vinegar.
Do you have to use vinegar?
You don't have to, but we've definitely seen it used in a lot of recipes. It also helps tenderize, and it adds just a little bit of bite for the flavor.
What's an alternative?
Lime juice is a great alternative. If you want to use beer, you can use beer. The way that I've grown up seeing this thing made was usually with vinegar, and you taste it, just a little tiny bit of a hint. So we're going to do that, and of course a little bit of olive oil. The reason that we add olive oil is, first of all, it helps lubricate everything. Second of all, when it goes on the grill, it'll actually create like this surface frying effect, which will also help with the crust. We're gonna mix it all together. All right, I think we're good to go.
All right. Now, how long are we gonna let this rest?
You could leave it as long as overnight if you wanted to, but probably gonna let it rest for a total of about 3 hours. And for 2 of those hours, we're gonna keep it in the fridge and then take it out just so that it doesn't go on the grill cold. You want the temperature to be somewhat room temperature when you put it on the heat. If you put cold meat on the grill, it'll be tougher. Here you have a real Middle Eastern skewer, and my dad actually got these from Azerbaijan more than 30 years ago. You can tell by the cheap weird plastic right here on the handle. One of the ways you know that it's legitimate is, first of all, it's flat. It's not round, because round skewers, the meat will just turn, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. But the key here are these surfaces right here. It allows you to do quarter turns like this, and then you can rest them. You can actually cook every surface individually. Without these, the effect isn't there. So if you're going to buy skewers, definitely make sure that it has this spiral feature.
We're going to start skewering this, and we want to separate the onions when you do so.
You don't want the meat to be separated. You want it to be sort of like a consistent.
You don't want to shove it together. These are not super big pieces of meat, so even with a little bit of space, they should cook pretty well.
You may have seen in the grocery store how they do skewers and they mix meat and vegetables. That's an amateur move. People who do that, they'd probably be grilling burgers and dogs on any other given day. So what you really should be doing is you should be grilling vegetables separately, because cook time for all this stuff is different.
The real way to make shashlik is to make it on something called a mangal. It's a rectangular grill, it's flat, and it's actually shallow. So it's to think of a box that's shallow that has charcoal at the bottom, and you put your skewers right on top. We don't have a mangal now, we might get one in the near future. So we have improvised here with these rather ugly metal rails. We're gonna put these down. It's very hot, but we're not afraid of a little adventure. Also, the key with grilling kebabs, unlike grilling a steak, is that you should turn them often. A steak, you don't want to remove it from the grate because it's gonna tear the meat. With kebabs, you can turn them and it's not gonna cause any kind of problem. You want them to cook evenly.
What the heck?
That's a tomato. It's crying.
It's probably starting to split. Yep.
They're already cooking very fast. What we're gonna do is move them off ever so slightly. And the reason they're flaring is because we left a good amount of fat, which is gonna taste amazing. All right, I'm gonna flip these. I mean, they're almost done.
Okay, so we're gonna take the meat off first.
We're gonna let this rest for about 10 minutes before we take it off the skewers for serving. How do you serve this stuff? One way to do it, take the meat off, and that juice, don't let that stress you out, because that's actually gonna make the food taste so much better. That is actually part of the meal. Here come the tomatoes.
Okay. They just slide right off.
Just the tomatoes need to be salted, ground pepper, and for the meat, some fresh dill. And you cannot beat this. This is amazing. This smells so good. Oh man. Hey Alex, do you have an objection to this?
No, what are you talking about? It was my idea.
And now you are ready to enjoy.
Yum, yum. Wow, that is perfect.
It's crispy and flavorful on the outside, just a touch tender on the inside.